to Scoundrels Inc., another Star Wars podcast. I am Frank Janish alongside Brandon Hanna and Kevin Smith. We're talking about part 5 of Ahsoka, titled Shadow Warrior. We're all very excited to talk about this episode. It was quite amazing, and just to jump right into it, just overall thoughts, because I got to know, Kevin, what did you think about this episode? Because Brandon and I were lucky enough to go to the fan event and see it 1 hour earlier than Kevin. Wow. Smith can hold it over his head. But Kevin, what did you think of this episode overall? Just broad strokes, overall thoughts before we really dive in.
Well, I thought it was really messed up. You texted me during it like a live tweet.
That's a lie.
You texting me everything nonstop. Oh my God, Anakin, clone armor. Oh my God, Battle of Teth. Oh my God, Siege of Mandalore. Like, come on, dude. That don't work.
You know what? Now I wish I would have done that. Yeah.
Look, I didn't throw it on the Oculus. I thought I would. I thought that would, the big screen thing, that would have been cool. But I didn't have time. It's been a hectic work day. I'm actually working after this show records again. But, I got my iPad. I put it against the wall and turned the lights down and had popcorn.
A real cinematic experience.
Yeah. So, no. For me, it didn't even need the cinematic experience. It was great. I'm not saying – I'm very excited to hear about you guys. I've been saying I can't wait to hear about your experience. But overall, for me, it impacted me just the same. I would have been great to be up there with you guys. We tried to make it happen, but work obviously couldn't let that happen. But I really enjoyed it. How about you guys? Let's hear the story about the cinematic experience.
Yeah, Brandon, you want to start off?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought, like, seeing it on the big screen, like, I don't know if it was just this episode or just the fact that I was seeing it in a movie theater, it felt more cinematic to me than a lot of the other episodes. And yeah, I don't know like what else to say without diving into some of the topics.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to speak on the theater experience, they ended up handing out a poster, which is cool, like the one that they promoted the fan event with. So we got that, and they gave us a popcorn and a drink, so that was cool. But other than that, talking about just the cinematic experience, the opening shots of it, kind of looking over Cetos and Hera walking out, all of that. I mean, the waves and all that, like in the title card, it just felt really cinematic in a way that it just doesn't come across when you watch it on your TV, which to me further underscores why Star Wars belongs in theaters. For movies, at least. I mean, you got to keep doing these movies. I know people love the TV shows and they're like, I could do without, movies ever again. It could be all TV. And while that's all good and great, I think Star Wars is its best with the theater experience. And even when a TV show, something made for Disney Plus, the streaming platform, is put on the big screen, there's just another feel to it that I can't really explain. You have to see it for yourself. I mean, if you've seen the movies, like, just imagine that for a TV show. It translates just the same, in my opinion. So I was thrilled with the episode overall. Everything that we got with Anakin and Ahsoka, I mean, I can't wait to get into that stuff. The stuff that we got with Jason actually kind of surprised me, how far or how much we got into him a little bit, and then just kind of how this episode ends and where Ahsoka ends up and is taking the story. It was so riveting. Honestly, I think I said this after we got out of the screening with Brandon. I wanted to cry like 8 different times in this episode. It was really a treat for Clone War fans. I mean, just incredible. Any last overall thoughts from either of you?
Well, I would also like to add that they split people up into 2 different theaters. Some people went and saw it in Dolby. Some of us saw it in Prime. We saw it in Prime, so we drew the short straw, I think. Even the image they show before the screening, the poster was like really like pixelated, and I was like, they couldn't get a higher res version of that? Like, dude, I could do that on my computer. What's going on there? Like Morgan Elsbeth looked all like disfigured, like off.
She did not look great in that picture. That's true, but
yeah, no, it still looked great when it actually played.
I will say this about the movie experience. And, I can't go 20 minutes without mentioning KOTOR, but back in 2015, I released my episode 3 to a film festival at MagFest in Baltimore and Maryland. And it was played on a big screen in like a convention hall, but it was still like that with the low lights and on a big screen. It took a 2003 video game graphic engine, and you just get lost in it, and it gives you that movie experience. And then a couple of years later, in 2017, I released it again for all the actors in LA, and I rented at a theater at the Wilshire Screening Room, and that was actually in a movie theater. It's actually where people screen movies like studios and stuff. Okay. And the bass and the audio of it was so crazy. And again, I had a packed house. A lot of it was like family and friends and most of the actors, but the people in the theater were just like blown away. And like they would continue to tell me afterwards, like it's something about that big screen that just does it. I mean, they were watching basically a 2-hour cutscene, right, that I made out of a video game. So I'm very envious that you got to see it. That's why I do recommend to people like the Oculus and the MetaQuest, like you can watch anything, Disney Plus, like YouTube, like, and there's even apps. There's an app called Big Screen, and it emulates. You can go to a 1980s style cinema where it's like the red curtains and stuff. You can go to the more modern blue, like IMAX type screens, and you can pick your seat and look around and like. And people host movies probably illegally all the time. 3 movies sure, yeah. But like I had no idea. One day when I was training for the Schmodown, someone was hosting not The Last Jedi. It was one of the movies I didn't know they had. I'd never seen it in 3D. I think Attack of the Clones. Someone had an Attack of the Clones 3D cool. video, and I watched Attack of the Clones for the first time, like in 3D on my Oculus. You get the eye strain and stuff. But anyways, I'm envious of you guys, and I wholeheartedly agree, Frank. The Star Wars needs to be in the theaters. I'm going to be on Sith Council. I don't know before or after when this airs, but I'm gonna challenge Christian on that and ask him if he still has changed his tune on it because
he did see the season premiere of Ahsoka in the theater, and
great. Cool.
From what I recollect, he really did enjoy it. So I think he's probably half and half. You know, I would.
People should watch Scoundrels Inc. on the big screen. That's what I'm saying.
That's right. That's
IMAX 3D.
Totally.
Whoa.
That's totally a $25 ticket worthy. Yeah.
Or be part of one.
And now I ruined the lens flare.
Yeah, you're good.
Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
You're good. Yeah. Before we really get into everything here, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so to listen or watch the rest of our recaps for the rest of the season for Ahsoka. If you want to do podcasts, we have that as well. Our podcast feed, Scoundrels Inc., another Star Wars podcast. Just put that into your favorite podcast app and we'll pop up there. I'm pretty sure we will. And then you can also follow us on the app formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Brandon's favorite platform, Threads. He is the flag bearer for that platform.
How many followers do you have on Threads, dude?
At least 200.
Nice, dude. Killing it. Threading it, bro. Threading it.
And as always, we want to voice our support for the SAG-AFTRA WGA strike. We fully believe in a fair deal for what they're fighting for. So once again, we just want to voice that support.
Of course.
Now,
listen, the movie and the show that you saw today that you were entertained, that was made by writers and actors right now that can't work, that can't get paid, that they're running the picket lines. And they're fighting for the good fight. And so we all sit and get entertained and we get lost in that galaxy far, far away and we forget how many people are involved in it. And then we forget that the studio heads that this show runs make about $27 million a year and they don't even want to give up like 0.5 or whatever, 0.05% of what they can, which would help everybody. So absolutely, you got to stay union strong for that.
And let me tell you, there's no way AI could have written what we saw in this episode. Not in the slightest. There's no way they could have come up with anything as good. But you know, we don't necessarily start off the episode immediately in the world between worlds, but that's what we're going to start our conversation because that I think is what everyone was waiting to see all week long. And Anakin comes in there and he's like, "I'm here to finish your training." So with that kind of now laid out. You know, I had presumed to think that this was Ahsoka as she remembers him, which she does. And this is how she remembers him, and this is how the world between worlds is basically projecting Anakin to Ahsoka, I guess. It's not quite clear how it's really happening or why she's seeing that version of Anakin, but that's okay to me. He's in there talking about the training, and they, it's. God, it was so cool to see the world between worlds and Anakin. First of all, I just got to tell you, and I was telling everyone else that I was talking to earlier before this, Anakin looks so good He looks
night and day
amazing.
from last week. Night and day.
It really was. I don't get it. I don't get it because even I'll tell you this actually, they showed it previously on in the theater, and like that Anakin shot at the end where he's revealed, he looks great there. He looks nothing like he looked on my television screen last week.
That episode premiered and people were hating on it, someone had tweeted, one of the Star Wars leakers or whatever, who had seen this one and said that rest assured next week he looks better. So like, I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction where they were like back to the drawing boards either. Like for some reason, because if he's saying that if this person was saying they already saw the next one and he looked better, yeah, but they nailed it. I think he looks better than Luke in Boba Fett too. I think he's the best de-aged since like Samuel L. Jackson and Captain Marvel and the de-aging stuff they did with Ant-Man and Michael Douglas. Kirk Douglas.
Totally. This is some of the best. Yeah, that would be quite a feat. Yeah, that'd be quite a feat.
Movie, dude.
Brandon, how'd you think Anakin looked here and to start off?
Oh, Anakin looked great, and I agree. Like even the recap, he looked better. I don't know. Sometimes things just like look better in a movie theater. I don't know what it is. Like I remember even like this is like kind of different, but like I remember like seeing like Batman v Superman in the theaters, and I saw it in just like a regular theater, and like, you know, Zack Snyder's like pretty heavy on the CGI. Like it looks great, but he's always like heavy on it. And so like seeing it in a regular movie theater, I was like, this looks very CGI to me. But like for some reason, when I went back and I saw it in IMAX, the IMAX shots in the movie all of a sudden looked like way more photorealistic. Like because it was like this is the way it was like intended to be seen. So I feel like, you know, like something about maybe seeing this in the theater, it was just like intended to be seen that way. That's
we
the way.
We get it, Brandon. You got to see it in the theater. I had to watch it on my couch with the sun shining into my face. Great, thank you.
You were invited, okay? It's not my fault you couldn't, you know, teleport through the world.
Wait a second. How are you guys separate? When you guys were together, why didn't you just sit in the car and broadcast from there? Why am I seeing two of you?
Never mind that. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about why Ahsoka is so much more lively around Anakin. Did you like pick up on that? As soon as she started talking to Anakin, she seemed to have more of like a pep in her. And like, even though she's pretty much, Anakin kind of confirms it, she's in between life and death at this point. What are you going to do? And I don't know, did you pick up on that, Kevin? Like she...
Oh yeah, I picked up on that afterwards when she's on the ship and she kind of had a smile.
Well, especially that, yeah.
Yeah, like especially at the end, the Ahsoka the White stuff, which... Come on, everybody calm down with the Gandalf stuff. Like, she didn't just come out of the world between... Like, it's because she didn't have another outfit. So she's like, oh, I'm just going to throw this on. I have a backup outfit on the Ghost. She's not Ahsoka the White.
It's like an off-white. It was like an eggshell white.
You don't think there's anything to the fact that she chose to wear that instead of keep wearing the same gray clothes she was wearing?
Because she was in the ocean playing
it's just symbolic.
She's waiting for the dry cleaners to finish with her heat. That's what you're telling me?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, by the way, if you put a lightsaber in your clothes, would it like dry it fast? I don't know, but that's neither here or there. Yeah, no, I did notice that she had that pep in her step a little bit, and I hope that they continue that. I hope that was like a for sure. Aside from the whole Ahsoka the White stuff, like I hope that you really do feel it carved out, like before and after, right? Because a near-death experience, like it's a pretty crazy thing to experience. I don't want us to pass over it. What do you guys think Anakin was? Do you think it was in her head? You know, like I remember there's a quote in Harry Potter, which Harry asked Dumbledore after Harry's technically dead, and he's talking to Harry and to Dumbledore, and not to be too nerdy on a Star Wars podcast, but Harry says to Dumbledore, like, "Is this real or is this in my head?" And then Dumbledore replies, "Just because it's in your head." Does that mean it can still mean that it's real? Mm-hmm. So are you guys like, you know, I was way off on my thought on what Anakin might be. Do you guys think that he's always there? Or if I were to, let's say, end up there, that, my mentor would pop up there. And so the world between worlds, it's like provides for you who you need to see. Do you think it's like that? Or is it like how Han Solo appeared to Kylo at the end of Rise of Skywalker, where it was kind of memory based? Like how you mentioned, like this is how she remembers him, but what is he like? Are we going to ever know that? And it's kind of interesting that I think we're going to debate it till the cows come home. It's a really old reference, sorry, but yeah, we're going to debate it a long time of like who or what Anakin was. What do you guys think?
I think that he was real. I think that was his actual like forced ghost. Like I remember thinking in the movie theater, like, okay, like you know, in Rebels, Ahsoka physically goes to the world between worlds. And in this one, maybe she like spiritually went there while her body was just like floating in the ocean for a while. But then I wondered why, if she was floating in the ocean, why didn't they pick her up on any of their scans until after she comes out of the world between worlds? So I don't know. It's tough to gauge. I feel like I could still go either way.
And Jason heard a lightsaber dueling too.
Yeah, which was cool.
She's doing it underwater, but
right.
Yeah.
I like the fact that, and I think I said this last week, I don't think they're really going to explain how she got there, how she gets back, how this is all operating, because there is that mystical part of Star Wars that I think needs to remain mystical. And I think people have been retweeting and reposting an old interview from Dave Filoni talking about the world between worlds. He's like, I don't ever really want to explain this. I don't think we should. I like to leave it up to the audience's interpretation of what you take away from it. So I like it doesn't surprise me that we didn't get definitive answers like she went through a portal when she went through the water. I don't know what happened. All I would chalk it up to is the will of the Force. Like the Force decided that, you know, or deemed that this is what Ahsoka needed right now, and Anakin has to be, you know, someone that guides her through this moment. And this is what it's really all about. Are you going to live or are you going to die? And that's what Anakin's there to help Ahsoka figure out. And I guess I think it's a Force ghost of Anakin, and the way Anakin looks is because this is what the Force is, you know, finds that this is what Ahsoka needs. Ahsoka has no lessons to be taught by Darth Vader. He's not going to look like that, you know, for Ahsoka. The lessons she needs to learn are from Anakin, the way he looked when Ahsoka was his Padawan, was when she was training under him. So I think that's why he looked that way. I mean, there's that remark of, you know, Ahsoka's like, you look the same, and then Anakin goes, you look old, you know, and it's like just that kind of banter between them is very Clone War-esque, and I just really I loved that Hayden Christensen is able to have that type of dialogue with Ahsoka, and that to me was just that was just one of the heartwarming parts about this episode. So
I used to look up fan art of like Hayden with Ahsoka, and I remember I used to save them on my phone whenever I found a good one. So it was pretty surreal to see them together. And I think Hayden was respectful. He could have come in there and kind of been his own thing, but he had spirit of Matt Lanter in him too.
Totally.
Which I totally respected. Just little subtle things. Just like as Rosario Dawson treated Ahsoka with reverence, with like the arm crossing and knowing that she was such a huge fan. You know, Hayden famously, right before he started Obi-Wan, he did his research and he watched all of the Clone Wars. And so I think he probably really got invested in it and was like, I'm going to continue him. It's still him. Like there was parts where like, even like sometimes he talks and he blinks a couple times. Like it reminded me of when he's like, they're trying to turn you against me. Like the little like
the maniacal side of him. Yeah,
the maniacal, or just like just his mannerisms, like I'm doing it to protect you, or no, I won't lose you. Like this stuff like that. And I will say the only thing that always just throws me off, whenever we see him from behind and you see the hair and he turns his head, you just can't. Do you guys see it too? I just always think Revenge of the Sith. Like if you're not with me, then you're my enemy. It's like
you're my enemy. Yeah.
It's like PTSD. Like I don't want to ever like see the back of Anakin's head, because every time I'm like, is he going to turn around and start stabbing me? But yeah, crazy, man.
This was just these few minutes to start off with them was just like insane to me. First of all, like how good he looked, and I was really worried about when you do the de-aging. I'm really worried about how the speaking parts look, the mouth looks, how it moves. But this was just flawless. So right after that, I was really just sunk into this, and this whole time she's in the world between worlds, you find out really Ahsoka's like, her whole thing is, why should I continue to live when my legacy is one of death and destruction? Baylan Skoll says it right to her face in the last episode. That's your whole entire legacy. That's what you leave behind. Your master was like that. You're like that. Everywhere you go, death and destruction. And so it would be fair for Ahsoka to be like, well, I lost this fight. Why should I continue to live if all my legacy is about is death and destruction. And through this entire journey, which we're going to get into now more as we get into these flashbacks with Ryloth and Caesar Mandalore, is you're more than just that. Anakin was more than just that. And so are you, Ahsoka. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and he says it.
Something like that is like a dead giveaway to me that's the real Anakin. That's his spirit. Because he got offended a little. He's like, you're more than that because I'm more than that. And it was like, oh, all right. Like, message received, Sky Guy, which he never says, by the way. And that was like my one complaint. Well, I wanted one Sky Guy.
Well, she didn't call him that often in the car. Like that was like, he called her Snips a lot, but I think, and she was, remember, did you want her to like say, hey, how's R2E doing? Like,
right.
Call R2E.
She might now call him R2E or reference R2E now that she's, out, in Ahsoka the White, if you will.
Ahsoka the White. I have thoughts on that, but she just look. Are you Frank the Star Wars shirt guy because you decided to wear your Star Wars shirt today?
All right, relax. But Kevin, this flashback, well, first of all, the little duel that they have right before we get into this Ryloth flashback, the saber moves and all, he does like that twirly one, that he's really like famous for, I guess you could say. What are your thoughts, Kevin, on this saber duel between Ahsoka and Anakin?
So good. I mean, it's just hard to like put into words. Like, you're just seeing it unfold. That's the bonus of seeing it here. Like, I could cry like a baby and no one was around. My wife wasn't here. She was doing yoga. My kid was at the playground at the yoga place, whatever. Long story. But like, not that I was sitting there bawling, but like, I was just sitting there on the couch, like blown away. And Hayden is just king of lightsaber duels, man. He hasn't lost a step. He looks so good. And that's him. That's not him. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, and I wonder who did the choreography for this one. Like, did they bring Nick Gillard back? I wish I knew that. I don't think they did, but
they did not. I don't know her name off the top of my head, or his or her name. I'm not sure who it is, but it wasn't Nick Gillard. But it still looks great.
His attitude and just like how I'm going to train you, and just full of that confidence. And there's episodes of Clone Wars where it was like that, and then the Tales of the Jedi when he's like teaching her about how to fight off the clones and stuff. So I thought they nailed it 100%. I thought that you're never going to see, like, my one crazy theory, I wasn't on your show last week, but I thought, because they played the Vader theme, that like when we were going to come back, he'd say, hello, Snips, and then he'd start deteriorating and space melting, and then he'd be Darth Vader. And they kind of do that a little, where he had like that KOTOR progression, and KOTOR, the worse you get, the more great.
Oh, right, yeah.
I love that. But yeah, I thought that was going to happen like right after coming up to it. But yeah, they nailed it. That first duel is great.
Oh, it's so good. Brandon, what'd you think of that first sequence of the duel?
Yeah, no, it was really good. And like, there was definitely like a progression, like in the style of the combat, I think. Cause like later on when they fight towards the end and he has like the red lightsaber, you even like, you see more of that like Revenge of the Sith Mustafar Anakin and like the intensity.
Oh yeah.
Which that he's like fighting. So there was definitely like a progression of like where he's starting out, where it's like, all right, like I'm just getting you like, no pun intended, into the swing of things. But then like later on, like once like you're right at the point where you're about to learn your lesson, I'm going to really like dial it up to 100%. And once she learned her lesson, I like that he like goes back, like his eyes like turn normal again because his eyes like went yellow and all that stuff. And he it was just great. And I don't want to say too much other than the duel, but
he had a red saber too, which is always cool because for a while I think even before they rotoscoped it, they weren't sure if it was going to be red or blue when they were shooting Revenge of the Sith. Did I see her eyes get Sithy for a second when she was almost giving into the anger, almost like a vision?
No, I think that was just the light from the saber, and they were trying to play on that theme.
Gotcha.
I think, I would have to go back and like really look, but that's because I thought the same thing in the moment. Like,
okay, that's what I just wanted to throw.
Yeah. But I think they were just trying to draw this parallel between her and Luke fighting Anakin, right? Because I guess we're just really jumping past the flashbacks, but real quick, like when she tosses the saber away after she kind of like disarms him, actually, she tosses the saber away. Well, actually, I got to go back to the very beginning of that duel, because Ahsoka says, I don't want to fight you. And Anakin goes, I've heard that before, or I will not fight you, which is a direct reference to him fighting Luke in Return of the Jedi, you know? And so...
Also, I think I just rewatched it. I watched tonight, Twilight of the Apprentice. I think that she was trying not to fight him there too, but so I could be wrong, but I think he might have been more referencing their duel in Twilight of the Apprentice, but I could be wrong.
Maybe, but my initial thought was especially when she tosses the saber away the way Luke does.
Like
that was to me that read as, she was definitely, that was a Luke thing. And then in the beginning, when he says, I've heard that before, to me, that was reference. My mind went to Luke, but I would have to rewatch it.
My headcanon, I'm stealing it. So,
but
and I love the way he took out the bridge too.
Oh yeah,
he's like, I haven't taught you everything. Whack.
Boom. And now we get to Ryloth, and it's young Ahsoka. It's Clone War era Ahsoka. And
I did not pick up on that right away. I was sitting next to our buddy Garrett McDowell, and he started freaking out, and I'm like, why is he freaking out? Like, where are we? It's like Mortis or something. And then I'm like, oh, she's young.
Yeah.
It took me a second.
My Jedi Way compatriot Laura texted that she appreciated that they went with season 3 Ahsoka outfit and not. I don't think you want to see a little child dressed in a tube top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you don't.
I'm really excited to show my wife that. We're going to watch it tomorrow because she couldn't obviously watch it with me live. But the fact that, what do you guys think of how young she is in that scene? Like that really hammers down that war.
Child soldier, really.
They were throwing what they could at it. I mean, she is literally 13, 14 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, Padme, for some reason in The Phantom Menace, does not feel her age. She feels older. It's always been me, but she was supposed to be 14, right? 13, 14.
Yeah.
This girl was here.
Naboo has young queens for some reason.
Yeah, and it was nuts. That was fantastic. Great casting, and in my notes I just wrote, what acting? I know everybody. I haven't seen Barbie yet, so. I know people were talking about how she was in Barbie and great, but
and she's young Gamora.
Talk about getting on the radar. She's what?
She's young Gamora in is it Endgame or Infinity War? Infinity.
Yeah.
She was great as young Ahsoka, man. I was really blown away by some of her, especially when she's touching the hand of the clone, right? And she just starts tearing up and feeling the loss, and she's really expressing her guilt for this time period, right? I was like, man, she's nailing this moment. And that one really, really hit me because you can tell that Ahsoka has carried this stuff all the way up until this point in her life. And this is what she's effectively has not dealt with and rectified because feels like she sent so many clones to their death. And it speaks volumes of how Rosario has been portraying Ahsoka up to this point. She's very somber and has been living with all this guilt about, abandoning Anakin and all the clones that were under her watch that she lost. And Anakin's there basically look, it's unfortunate that I had to train you to be a warrior because these were the times. These were the sign of the times. I had to adjust to it. So yeah, you weren't supposed to train for this, but we didn't have that option. Because if I didn't train you to be a warrior, you would have died, So I thought there was a lot of work here for Ahsoka to start overcoming, what she's been dealing with.
He was very good job of put on your big boy pants too. What happens if I don't want to fight? Then he's like, then you'll die. And then he turns and then he goes and fights because if he doesn't fight, they'll die and everybody's depending on him.
And I think her
flashes
saying
of Vader when he's walking away.
Yeah. So
which
good.
Is crazy.
And real quick, before I want to hear the rest of your thoughts, Brandon, I think her saying, what if I don't want to fight, speaks to why she's there in that moment. I think she doesn't want to fight anymore. She's been fighting all her life, and all it's brought her is death and destruction. But, as we progress through the scene and seeing Anakin in his Clone War armor with Hayden wearing this stuff, I mean, come on, man. Come on. This is incredible.
Yeah, and I feel like Anakin should maybe give that same speech to the New Republic. Oh, what if we don't want to fight a new war?
Yeah,
It sounds like you don't have a friggin' choice, dude. But they're like, oh, we can just sit back and hang out. They're not going to create another super weapon. It's fine.
Right.
I hope all those people were on Hosnian Prime during The Force Awakens. All those people that said no, they deserve to get roasted. With all those other 5 billion people.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I hope so. But I will say before I get to my next thought, now that we're talking about the New Republic, I think this was our first Mandoverse reference to Leia when
yes.
Why am I blanking on his name right now?
Carson Teva?
Carson Teva mentions Senator Organa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But I also wanted to say that actress who plays young Ahsoka, I think she knocked it out of the park for so many reasons. But like when you're watching it, like I realized like not only like she's not just playing a young Ahsoka, she's playing an old Ahsoka in a young Ahsoka's body.
It's a great point.
And
it's
it
a great
was
point.
So believable. Like it felt like the Rosario Dawson version of Ahsoka, but also with the way she carried herself, it's like I feel like I'm watching the cartoon brought to life. It was like a perfect balance of the two.
That's a great point because they let you know that when she's like, hey, we're in the Clone Wars. What are we doing here? And he's like, and then I love, what is Hayden's line? Anakin saved Kev? You remember?
Oh man, he just says, "Yeah, it looks like it," or
he's
something.
like,
"Oh,
he goes,
sure
yeah, no kidding."
Yeah, no kidding. Great.
That's what he's.
I've
so
been
good.
Telling people like, yeah, you could dig it up. Actually, I don't know. I kind of want to hide it now. So years ago, like, dude, growing up, like the prequels, everybody was hating on it because the people that were going to the theaters were ones from my generation who loved the original trilogy. And Hayden's acting, for whatever you say, like he was great in Life as a House, great in Shattered Glass. I think he was great in The Revenge of the Sith. But episode 2, he got like so hammered and like harped on, right? And to see him come in here and man, like I can't see anyone poking holes in his acting in this whole episode. Like he was funny at points, he was intense at points. He channeled what he used to be. He channeled Matt Lanter and I go back to this like years ago on my old KOTOR channel, or on my KOTOR channel, but it's old video. I put myself in episode 2 and replaced him, and the comments was full of like, "You should do it for the whole movie." Like he ate and sucked. Like people used to this, and that's not why I did it. By the way, back then I was just doing it to practice my rotoscoping skills because I didn't have a green screen. But like now, like if someone were to do that, like the love that he has gotten, and it's like I saw a tweet or something saying how like for everybody saying that like the Disney's like shitting on the prequels, not really, man. You've gotten Ghost Qui-Gon, you've gotten an Obi-Wan show, you got live action Ahsoka, young live action Ahsoka, and then you have Force Ghost Hayden and Clone Wars flashback. And let me say, I've been saying this on this show from the beginning. Dude, I'm telling you now from the response. Who knows, man? You know what would make $1 billion? A gritty, not even gritty, I don't like this term gritty, but a crazy, intense Clone Wars movie with de-aged Anakin, have Ahsoka in there, have de-aged Obi-Wan so we can see his armor, and like do Apocalypse Now style where they have to go deep into the jungles of, wherever, like Felucia, and like it would be like, come on, dude, it's asking for it. That scene was so good, and now in my Star Wars watching thing, which is now I'm inspired to like restart it, which I will. Now that's gonna go. I know exactly where to put it, but like, could we, before we get too far beyond that, like that battle was so good. It made it feel. It was like parts of Clone Wars. It reminded me of Darkness on Umbara, which is my favorite Clone Wars arc. What do you guys think about it?
I will say, I think they did a great job of like, hey, this is a world between worlds type of thing. So we're not going to completely build out this world, but we got the clones, we got the walkers, we have Anakin and Ahsoka obviously here. The explosions, we have, some people, great sound design and whatnot to really put you in this war type of atmosphere. But it's not, you don't see any B-1 battle droids, you don't see any, separatist forces really in these flashbacks in this on Ryloth. So I thought they did a really great job of like making this seem like we're not trying to recreate an actual battle that happened on this planet, but we're just trying to recreate the feeling of what Ahsoka was going through during this time and how she reflects back on it. So I thought they nailed the tone and the tenor of this time period for Ahsoka as a kid and how she has been dealing with that type of part of her life.
I think it's the Battle of Teth too, by the way. Like when, so I was.
This would be in the Clone Wars, right? It would be in the Clone Wars movie.
It was Clone Wars movie, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
or maybe
right.
they had another battle shortly after because it's one of their first battles, she says. But like with the purple sky, if you look it up, Battle of Teth, it was very similar. That's the one where then they scale the wall, which is a really cool sequence. So in my head, I'm like, maybe this happens right before they scale the wall, and that's where she plopped herself in, and that's where they had that conversation. But yeah, really well done. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I will say, like, I know it's like technically better, but it's still a little jarring for me to see the live action like clone troopers like in
It is
people
actually
in
right.
armor. It is like I'm like always like taken aback by it.
You want CGI? Oh, come on.
I just what I'm used to, right? From growing up watching the prequels like over and over and over again, and seeing these like characters interact, and it does make it feel like more real. And like I know like the clones at this point in time are the good guys, but like they're also kind of like scary because they're like it's almost like stormtroopers, but like their armor is like more like sharp edged, and that can just be like
And they're all Boba Fett's, bro. They're all Jango Fett.
Right.
They're all gnarly, like Din Djarin. Everybody's loving the Mando. There's a army of Din Djarins, basically. Well, I'm just saying, badass warriors.
Tamoras, yeah, a bunch of
Tamora
Morrisons.
Morrison's voice was in it, and yeah, he was like I saw like in the credits, he was credited as Captain Rex, which was pretty cool for that one shot in
Siege of
Mandalore.
Siege of Mandalore.
When I was
let's talk about the Siege of Mandalore thing because
Frank,
that was
your cut.
Crazy.
You gotta update your episode 3 cut, dude. You gotta throw that shot in somewhere. That's the Siege of Mandalore, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's why like I didn't really realize where we were at because it's very foggy, and then like I saw some like the Mandalorians. I was like, oh snap, is this the Siege of Mandalore? And then you see her in her Clone Wars season 7 outfit and the blades, and I'm like, oh my god,
longer too,
a little bit longer, yeah. So I mean, I was like, and I don't know what stunt actor they got, but the choreography, the moves that she was putting on, the Mandalorians and all that, like, it looked great. Like, it really harkened back to Clone War Ahsoka and the type of movements that she was doing in Clone Wars. Whereas it's pretty hard to replicate that type of stuff in live action, but I thought she looked great. If that was that actress too, I think it probably was. Upon closer look, man, just great stuff, Brandon.
She still looked very young, and I was like, man, Maul got his ass kicked by a child. That is crazy.
Did you guys for a second
at this
think
point
Maul
she's
was
like
coming back? Like I had a weird.
I thought for a second we were going to see him somewhere.
Just a quick flash, just like appear and disappear the way they did Vader, just real quick. And I like the fact that Anakin shows up there and he's like, I don't remember this one. Yeah. And she's like, well, you were on Coruscant, basically. We had parted this ways, is what she said. But at that point, Anakin was on Coruscant and she was dealing with this. And so this is where it gets really heavy too, because he starts turning into Vader / dark side. Well, Anakin, he's more man than machine Vader in this one. Flashback with the red saber and then the Sith eyes. Kevin, were you freaking out at this point? Because I was freaking out at this point. I was like, oh my god, we're running the gambit of all the Anakins here.
And again, hit the pale, like it's such a KOTOR thing, but like in the game, the more bad deeds you do, like you just start getting more paler in your eyes, the Sith eyes. And it's interesting, man, that they went for it. And like, because I thought they're like, oh man, he's gonna start. I thought my theory, he was gonna start didisintegrating and then be like,
they did a little bit of it there, yeah,
for like a second, and then he kind of cleans up a little. But yeah, and again, like it's like that I want to save it for the end of like all the leaks that were out that were proven not true, because I'm curious what you guys think about it. Because I think I hid a lot of it from you guys. I've known about it for a while, or maybe you guys did too, and we never talked about it on this show. But yeah, seeing him with the red saber, it's as if like that would have been him. That would have been badass Anakin had he won, and not if he believed Anakin or if he believed Obi-Wan that he had the high ground. Like you're seeing height of Sith powers Anakin fighting Ahsoka, and it's fabulous. Yeah, that was really good. Again, there's just so many, like, and I don't think it's fan service. Like a lot of people are like, fan service is bad for shows. Like this is not fan service. This is the story that needed to be told to get Ahsoka where she's going to be moving forward in this series.
And real quick before I want to hear Brandon's thoughts on the siege part, a lot of this reminds me of Jedi Fallen Order when Cal is having like these flashbacks with his master Jar Paul, and his master is very aggressive towards him of like, get your ass in gear, like you gotta step up. And so like I was trying to figure out like, why does this seem familiar? And it's like, oh, I've seen Cal Kestis kind of go through this stuff with his master Jar Paul. So I thought that was cool that it kind of makes sense that this is a thing that would happen to a Padawan who was lost to the Clone Wars and is on the run. Like they kind of have like these similar traumas to overcome with, losing their masters or what have you, So I kind of tied that thread. So it might be a bit of a stretch for some people, but that's how I kind of looked at it.
Yeah, I loved the Siege of Mandalore, and I really enjoyed how they like went with like Vader and the transition between Anakin and Vader, and how there was like a lot of like even like banter and like back and forth on it like throughout the entire episode. Like, aside from like the "oh, you look old" like joke, there was like a lot of like tongue-in-cheek like passive aggressive comments about him being Vader and him kind of like responding in such a way where he's like, "oh, what are you talking about? Like, huh? Like I was what?" And like those got a lot of good reactions in the theater as well. So that was like,
I missed that part. Then wait, what? I mean, I saw everything.
Ahsoka says
just right before he turns bad, right? That's when he's like, "All right, you failed. You're bringing my there
was like another moment. I think like on the World Between Worlds, there was like a comment. I can't remember exactly. So
on the Siege of Mandalore part, she's talking to Anakin, and she's like, because Anakin's like, you are everything. You have all my knowledge. Everything that's in me is in you. And she goes, if that's true, and you're all, your legacy is filled with death and destruction, then that's what I am. And he's like, you've learned nothing, and that's when he starts. That's when he flips. Yeah. But she also says to Anakin, you are more powerful and more dangerous than anyone ever realized. And he goes, oh, is that what this is about? And so like there is that part of what Ahsoka is dealing with. If I am everything you are and you became Darth Vader, what does that say about me? And so she's like, so that's something else that she's
what's the
wrestling
lesson?
with.
What's the lesson then?
Well, just because I taught you how to be a warrior and how to fight, you're more than that. You can save. That's what I took out of it. Like you can save. And it's kind of what you were talking about last week, Brandon, with Sabine in terms of fighting what you hate and saving what you love. It's kind of like, it kind of rhymes, right?
I think she passes the test too when she could have killed Vader and she doesn't. And she equates not killing Vader to not becoming him, I choose to live. And I'm going to live the rest of my life now, not under your shadow and under the guilt, but I'm going to live the rest of my life the way I am and with a brand new wardrobe. So.
Right.
Yeah. Right. and I think he's also saying like he's more than that. Like, yeah, like he was Darth Vader. He did these horrible things, but he also did good things. And like, and it's
I threw the Emperor down the shaft and he never came back. Somehow,
right.
But yeah, no, I think like because Star Wars, I think is very like forgiving in that sense. Like you do the worst thing in the world, but like you could also be a good person and do good things, and sometimes be a bad person and do bad things, and that's just life. But I really like enjoyed that interaction. And yeah, you said Frankie said, "Oh, is that what this is about?" It got a laugh because he kind of says it in a way where he's like, "Oh, Darth Vader, you're still mad about that?" Like, like you're still mad about the fact that I was Darth Vader? Oh, come on, that was forever
Get
ago.
over it. I
turned
back at the end.
I hope someone releases. There's a lot of videos where they release like opening night crowds. I really hope someone releases one on this because I'm curious, like what other parts like got laughs or like cheers and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was the great part. Actually, seeing this in the theater was when the funny moments came up, like people were laughing or chuckling. Not like falling out of their seats, but like just really appreciating just the banter that we know that Ahsoka and Anakin had in the Clone Wars, and we were hearing it out of Hayden Christensen and Rosario Dawson as these live action characters now. And man, that was really, really special to be in a crowd that appreciated what was happening on screen after, all of these years of them just being the animated versions of themselves.
We talked about it on the retrospective. I saw Empire Strikes Back with a crowd, and like the whole way argument with Han and Leia, and like you could use a good kiss, and that whole like got so many laughs. You don't realize how funny these movies are until you see it in a group environment where everybody's stoked to be there.
And like, look, just to kind of touch on the theater aspect again, it's been such a long time since I've watched Star Wars with a group of people, and it was just fun to do that again. Since Rise of Skywalker, I haven't seen Star Wars in a theater.
And the only thing I remember from Rise of Skywalker is rolling my eyes into the back of my head and Kylo Ren's like, "You are a Palpatine."
Oh my god! Oh boy!
Horrible. Sorry. I don't mean to be a hater, but that's
okay.
Like, that was just bad dialogue. That's what that was. He should have stopped.
Still on it. Remember how long the Rise of Skywalker thing was? It's because of these.
Oh my god, just coming back, people.
He should have stopped at "You are his granddaughter." He didn't have to add on the "You're a Palpatine." They never say the word Palpatine, not once in the original trilogy. But in the Rise of Skywalker, they're tossing that thing out left and freaking right. Palpatine, Palpatine. Oh my god.
If you want to hear more of what Brandon thinks about the Rise of Skywalker, click the card right here to our Rise of Skywalker discussion. Brandon he has never been that way ever again, the way he was on that episode. Let me tell you.
I think he sought counseling after that. I will say my buddy Brandon Twiggs' cut of that movie was great. We talked about it there too, but he cut out the Palpatine thing. So he just says, "No, your parents were killed," and then he does the flashback from the kid, like where she's like, "No," from The Force Awakens, and then he added Force lightning, and then it shows
that's
the
crazy
cracking,
though,
which was trying to mirror what she did to Chewie's ship. And it was like, that's a dark story that she had killed her parents accidentally using the Force. So Brandon, maybe kind of like that version, okay?
We guys kind of freaked out when Anakin goes, "Time to die." It was like, oh damn. And they
That's
they
not
have
something
that.
You want Anakin to say to you.
No. And you know what? Something I really I noticed when Anakin was fighting and dueling with Ahsoka, he would do like these slashes or like hammer her real quick, and then like he would shove his lightsaber off of like just like a force shove. I don't know what you call it, but like it was just so like powerful and just like whoom, and I don't know, imposing, I guess is the word. Man, I loved watching him twirl that lightsaber again. It was awesome. It was awesome.
It would have been funny if there was like an extra bonus like scene, like a post-credit scene where it's like Force Ghost Anakin talking to Force Ghost Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's just like, "You had to do the red lightsaber, didn't you?" He's like, "What? I really had to send the message home. She wasn't learning anything." Like something like that would have been good.
I will say, I have one little critique about how this transformation, if you will, for Ahsoka, in terms of like the lesson being learned. Because you asked earlier, Kevin, like what was the lesson thing? I thought my critique on it is it's pretty thin what how they showed how her getting over her trauma with Anakin. I thought it was a little thing. It wasn't as easy to like, oh, and I get what's happening here, because she kind of changes demeanor.
Can I bring up
go
what
ahead.
the leaks were? And now, and I've known this for months. A leaker revealed and I don't know if it because I don't know if they shot it. Like apparently they shot this stuff, and maybe we'll see it as a deleted scene or something. But the whole premise that was leaked for months of people that were able to seek out this kind of information on Reddit or whatnot was she was dealing with the guilt of where she is and her destiny, and Anakin was there, or she was going to learn through the world between worlds that no matter what path she took, she was always going to be there, right? Mm-hmm. So no matter if she killed Thrawn, had she killed Thrawn, there still would have been another threat. Like that, it was talking about like how there's always these inevitable things. Like in Spider-Verse, they talk about how Uncle Ben always has to die, and they shot it. They shot footage of the young Ahsoka fighting Anakin on Mustafar. And that was going to be one of the visions that she goes into. And I think they just didn't want to deal with multiverse stuff, which you can deal with on my KOTOR channel eventually. But I think they maybe didn't want to go there quite yet, right? And they even
or
shot...
maybe at all. Maybe
they
at all
shot two versions. One where there was a puppet of Obi-Wan dead on the Mustafar ground at the lava bank. And they did another one where it was just his clothes. And there was this big like uproar about, well, it shouldn't be just his clothes because he doesn't learn that until after, during his solitude on Tatooine and stuff, about him becoming one with the Force. But a lot of it was she was supposed to go through these moments where, and again, this is why leaks and stuff, it creates this like, oh my God, like the Vader suit was there. Obviously they had the Vader actor there. He was in just flashes, right? Yeah. Everybody was convinced we were going to see her fight him on Mustafar. We were going to see her fight him on Twilight of the Apprentice. And like with every end result still being that she ends up there on the World Between Worlds, and she was supposed to reconcile with that fact. So, and I'm not presenting these leaks. It's fun to tell it now because, like, when I first read that, and like you could see fan art. You've seen it where like it's Ahsoka on the floating thing and Anakin in the distance. Would have been interesting. I don't think it needed it. I think this was great. I do think that the lesson, because the fact that I had to ask you, sorry, whoa. New camera. Got a new, So the lesson, I think the lesson is a little more murky than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little more on the nose where she's just like, I abandoned you, blah, blah, blah. And, there's all these other theories that like, interesting situations. But they shot it. So I wonder if one day we will see it or if that's just all hogwash and they were just leaking that stuff.
I think it's hogwash. I think they probably saw something and then extrapolated, oh, what could they do with this? Well,
the original leak was like, at first it was going to be a full-on thing, and then another thing was going to be she's going to walk and look at portals, and as she would walk by portals, she'd see all these alternate, maybe it's a deleted scene where as they're walking, he's like, this is what this is about, and then he turns and then he says, let me tell you something, no matter what you did, Ahsoka, it would have never, this is what would have happened no matter what, and then she just walks by a portal where it's like flashes, right? Like, you never know if that will ever see the light.
I don't know. I mean, Uncle Bob's trying to cut costs. I don't know if they're going to be shooting stuff to later, leave on the cutting room floor. I think they're probably pretty tight with their budget. But that said, I think
they shot.
I'm glad. I actually think this is a much better way to go about Ahsoka's journey in terms of dealing with her legacy and that being of her being part of Anakin's legacy. And
you're asking people a lot already to get them in the World Between Worlds and all the mystical things to all of a sudden be like, now we're going to see alternate universes.
And it's a great way to stay away from the multiverse stuff, because you do that, then the conversations are going buck wild with multiverse theories and whatnot. But the way they did it here, they didn't touch any of that stuff. You never looked once into a past moment or a future moment, and you didn't need to, because why? It's about Ahsoka confronting her legacy with Anakin and coming to terms with, you're more than just what than death and destruction. You're more than that, as so
I mean, Rebels, I think there's the Rebels World Between Worlds stuff, like they were throwing Yoda quotes from The Last Jedi, Yoda quotes from like Vader quotes from the original trilogy, quotes from the sequel trilogy. Like they were just throwing everything out. Well, I mean, not the sequel trilogy, but like they were throwing everything out there.
No, they did. They had a Rey. They had Rey.
They did. They had Rey in that scene in the Rebels thing.
Yeah, the voice, her voice you can hear. But but still.
Definitely really interesting that they chose to go away from it. And I'm curious if that will ever see the light of day or if it'll ever be debunked. But yeah, that was the stuff I remember telling you guys, like, dude, I just read this crazy rumor. How crazy will this be? But I didn't think it needed it. But I think the lesson is then, so again, and I'm asking this I'm not trying to be an adversary here. So the lesson is, she gets to be there and, hey, you got to live or die. You're either going to die because you're going to believe everyone says that you are a path of death and destruction in your wake, and you're just going to give into that, or you're going to prove everybody wrong and you're going to be above even me. Anakin says, I was more than just that, and now you're going to be more than just you and more than just me. And that's the lesson. And then she finally passes when she chooses not, when she has him beaten, you are beaten, and then doesn't kill him, right? So are we saying that would be the lesson then?
Yeah, because I think that would be, is your legacy death? Then if it is, then you would strike, she would kill Anakin right there, or right? But because she chooses not to, it's like, well, you're not all death and destruction, are you? If you're choosing this route. So
fans in the comments below, I'd like to hear what everybody...
By the way, full disclaimer, we're talking about this just like a couple hours after the episode has aired, and we haven't really had time to fully digest. What do you think,
Brandon? What's the lesson?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you guys made a lot of really good points. It's like what Frank just said. I think he nailed it. But like, I also think that there's like a much simpler lesson where up until this point, like she didn't really like care if she was like alive or dead. She was like kind of like a zombie going through the motions. And after this whole experience with Anakin, she realizes that she wants to live and she's happy to be alive. And when like she goes with Hu Yang inside the Purgle's mouth, he's like, yes, we could end up anywhere. Like who knows where we're gonna end up? And she's like, yeah, who knows? It'll be fun to find out, right? Like there's like a sense of like optimism where she's like excited just to be going somewhere, whether or
Dare
not
I
towards
say
Ezra.
It, Brandon? Dare I say it? And without all the Star Wars fans hating me, but whatever. Parts of that, and maybe it's just Space Whales 2 and whales from Star Trek, I was getting a Star Trek vibe in that last like 10 minutes, you know, like complete with like you have someone on a star bridge and stuff. But besides the aesthetics of it, like you have these space whales, but it was the optimism, like you said, the line or like, oh, well, we're not going to go somewhere. That's something that like William Shatner would have said, you know, in at the end of one of the Star Trek movies. Everybody's going to be throwing hate mail at me, but you know, I got a very optimistic Star Trek vibe, and I say optimistic because Star Trek is about. They were always trying to say that that's about optimism and about hope and stuff like that.
Like, I'll say juxtapose what.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
juxtapose what Hu Yang and Ahsoka are talking about with the Purgle, and compare that to Ahsoka and Sabine's conversation last episode about. The only way to stop Thrawn is to destroy the map altogether. And so that Ahsoka doesn't exist anymore, right? She has evolved to there's more than one way. Let's see what happens. Let's try saving instead of fighting. And you know, because I'm not.
She says I'll bring him back. I promise. But Brandon, back to the Star Trek real quick. And I gotta. Were you getting vibes from that or no?
I wasn't, but hearing you say it, it's like not this similar to like at least one or two endings to like Star Trek movies. Like they're like on the bridge of the Enterprise, and he's just like, "Let's just go and see what happens."
Don't unsubscribe, everybody. We are a Star Wars podcast. Trust me.
But it was great because I was talking about it where like I loved it, and I think it really hammered home the message of like she is just happy to be alive and like, and she's optimistic and like. That is like the Ahsoka that we knew in like the Clone Wars, and somewhere she lost her way, but now she's back. And so I really appreciated like all of that. And yeah, there was something else I was going to say, but I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Anakin got to finish her training. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. This is the last lessons and he got to do it, whether it's Force Ghost or it's in her head or whatever you want to believe. She got that closure because she left the Order. Like that's another episode I watched right before was to the wrong Jedi, and like that departing scene is like so sad, right? Like she got the final lessons, and I think it's like that, you know, Mickey like appearing to Rocky and saying "Get up," because Mickey loves you, kid. You know what I mean? Like you get your hardest mentors, and I think we're going to see him again at some point. Whether it's at the very end and he pulls, you know, he hangs out in the Andor again and leans against a tree and we're going to see it again. I think we're going to see him one more time giving a thumbs up and like a good job. You are now yours. That's my prediction. I don't know any more leaks about anything like that.
I think I said this right after we got to the theater, Brandon. I was like, I think we're going to see him one more time. And to like what you're thinking, Kev, like he's going to come back as a Force Ghost and kind of give the nod to Ahsoka like, you got it now. You got it. You're good to go. Yeah. You know, I think we'll see him one more time as a proper Force Ghost in the.
And everybody will all singing Yub Nub. They're gonna bring Yub Nub. Yub Nub. Up.
And then maybe Obi-Wan's there, and Obi-Wan's like, really the yellow eyes, and he's like, what was that a bit too much? He's like, maybe a bit too much. It worked.
So let's rewind real quick to the very start of this episode where Hu Yang is chilling out by the henge there, and he's like, I told them to stay together, and he's really beaten up over this, that Ahsoka and Sabine they might have perished at this point, and he's like, they should have stayed together, and I thought it was just a crazy, just the way this whole episode started. Again, super cinematic and eerie and intense, and And then Jason's like, I'm hearing stuff, Mom. And she's like, yeah, whatever. But it's just like, I really appreciate how they're really setting up like, yo, this kid's attuned to the Force, like right now. Like he can hear stuff in the water and the lightsaber clashing. And I really appreciated that they're not shying away from that he has Force abilities, because Hu Yang then says to Carson Teva, which was great. Mm-hmm. This is a great moment. Hu Yang to Carson's like, yeah, his dad was a Jedi, Kanan Jarrus, and so Jason has abilities. And Carson Teva was like, yeah, all right, let's get going. I thought he played that perfectly, and in the theater, it played perfectly. It was great.
Oh, did everybody cheer when they got the name shout out finally? When they shouted out Canis,
I don't know if it, maybe like one or two people, but the Carson Teva moment definitely got a big laugh.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, it also seemed like once Hera like sat there and like listened with Jason, it sounded like she heard it too, which I thought was like interesting. Like she like had like an oh crap moment. Like
yeah, I wonder if that.
So like I wonder like if that kind of like plays into the idea like of what like George Lucas would say like about like Sabine and everything, where it's like the Force flows through everyone and it is there for people that are like willing to sit there and like listen to it.
Qui-Gon says it to Anakin. He says, quiet your mind and you will start to hear them too. You know,
or it's like when my daughter runs around like a dinosaur and then I get scared and pretend like she's a dinosaur. Like she might just be playing along a little bit, like, but I think she trusts his instincts for sure.
Yeah.
And that the music was stellar in that scene too. Anytime they get a new iteration of the Force theme, it just makes my soundtrack heartwarm.
The music this entire episode was phenomenal. I mean, Kevin Kiner has been killing it all season long in this series. And this episode is no exception. It is, I mean, it really added to the atmosphere and the tenor of this episode. It was incredible. So as Hera has the X-Wing squad and they go out and start scanning the ocean water, and they pick up Ahsoka out of the water. They get her on board and she's like knocked out for a whole day, and she wakes up and Kevin, what was the first thing you noticed when she woke up?
No headband.
Yeah, wasn't it weird?
It was CG. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're getting a little too excited, Frank. It was just without a headband, but
all right, relax.
It was weird.
Yeah. What a weird guy, Frank. God, it's just the headband. No, but I think we never see it, so it's like, you know, and I think. Because the designs back in the day, it's just at a you know how it was designed to make the makeup work. But yeah, and it was like flawless. Like if you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, that's how it would look.
It reminded me of when, like, you know, when someone always wears a baseball cap and they never take it off, and then they take it off and it ends up like they're just completely bald. And you're like, whoa, I thought you had like hair under there and stuff.
Or like with, you know, Clark Kent, when all you have to do is wear a pair of glasses and then everybody doesn't know you're Superman.
I'm surprised Hu Yang could recognize her. Like, who is that? Is that Ahsoka?
I will say that Hu Yang going emo, but you know me and my emo with droids. But that moment got me when you peeled around the corner and you saw him holding the helmet, dude.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, friend of the podcast, Padawan Collector, I mentioned on Jedi Way last week. He actually did a reaction video short on it. It was funny, but his theory is that Hu Yang. You know, Disney, they're probably not going to kill off a human main character, but he thinks that Hu Yang is going to stay in that other universe and protect everybody to get them back. And he's going to be the IG-11. He's going to be the K2SO. It's going to be in the finale. His theory is, and it's not half bad of a theory. I just hope it doesn't happen because I actually really like that. Listen, just so you know, Hu Yang trained Revan. Like, that's how long he dueled with Revan and all of those Jedi in the KOTOR days. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm a real big fan of him, and I really, or it, I guess, robots, but I really hope that that this droid makes it. But someone's not making it out. I think Morgan's not making it. We can get to predictions later, but it's a great theory. You can check him out at the Padawan Collector. He has his shorts. You can see it.
Brandon, I want to go to you for your thoughts on Jason and Hu Yang, their moment, and kind of like this Ahsoka coming out and being more of Ahsoka of old, if you will.
Yeah, no, that was great. Where he was like, "Oh, you train Jedi? Like, will you train me?" No. He's like, "Oh, do you know how to build a lightsaber? Yeah. Can you build me one? No."
Was I getting laughs in theaters, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
That was really great. Yeah, he's like, "I've been on a starship. Have you ever been on a Jedi starship?"
Right. Yeah.
I love how they call him Starship too. It reminds me of Jake Lloyd saying, "I get to go with you on your starship."
Yeah, that's right.
He also says laser sword, so Last Jedi's right.
He said it in that episode. I might have missed
an episode. No. Anakin says
Anakin says it episode 1, and then Luke says it in Last Jedi.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that was all great. No headband was weird. I think there was like a few people that like gasped in the theater.
Really?
Like when they realized, they're like, "Oh."
That was me. Probably. I was like, "Oh." But it's just weird to see her dress any other way than we've seen her from like Mandalorian.
Blake. I know you're really excited by this no headband thing, but Kevin, calm down.
Oh my! What are we gonna do with you?
Somebody check this guy's wallpaper on his computer desk.
All right, that's enough. I did like the fact that because Kevin, you brought this up when we on the series premiere when she went back to the communication tower, Ezra's communication tower, when she's like sensing what happened there, the battle with Sabine and Shin, and she does it again here at the Henge to try and figure out like what happened with Sabine. Is she alive? Where'd she go? And it pretty much does confirm that she can do psychometry, the Force Echo, basically because she used the orb, the map, and kind of the surroundings there, what happened, and figured out that she went with them. And Hera's like, well, then she's got to be alive. And Ahsoka's like, yeah, well, she was when they left. I don't know about anymore, basically, but she could be. And so I like that we're just seeing Ahsoka really tune into all aspects of the Force, whether it's the psychometry, now talking to the Purgle when we get up there. I mean,
your Filoni flex, dude.
He's doing it.
And by the way, when I say the Filoni flex, I don't say it as a negative thing. Like, that's his baby. Like, I don't think he's taking too many liberties or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but that is a definite Filoni flex of like this her on the ship and like talking. But if you recall in Tales of the Jedi, man, I wish he just gave a thing and said, I was discovered doing this very thing. In Tales of the Jedi, her origin when she was a little baby stopped that like giant creature from like killing her by putting her hand on the nose. So like we seem to forget that like that's probably one of her strengths and why her and Ezra kind of share that. So she was able to be on that ship and do that with the Purgle. I thought it was a cool nod to me. Whether it's a nod or it wasn't, to me, it felt like I liked that it was that clear connection to Tales of the Jedi. And anything where you're connecting different media and different forms of media is just fantastic.
For a second during that moment, I thought we'd get like a flashback to like baby Ahsoka doing that in Tales of the Jedi. That would have been pretty cool. Like if it cut back and forth a couple.
That would have been wild.
But yeah, and I also thought
then they would have to cast a baby, live action baby Ahsoka. Could you? The little
like 7 actresses.
Why not? And I also thought for a second when she like looked over to Sabine's helmet, I wondered like, oh, maybe like Sabine's helmet recorded the map when it was like displayed. Shit. But then I was like, oh, it was probably like in the woods when that happened. So I don't.
Oh, right.
And also, if it's that someone else was like, oh, it like ingrained on her hand, like Raiders. But like, if it was that easy, it wouldn't have taken him so long to do all these like calculations.
Right,
you could just you take your iPhone and be like, I took a picture of it. Let's go get Ezra. They'd be back by sundown.
Brandon, what'd you think about all the Purgle stuff?
I thought it was great. Super like cinematic on the big screen, and it was like emotional. There was like a lot, like the middle of the episode, had a lot of like the quote unquote fan servicey stuff that was like really cool with Anakin and like like full of like action and suspense. But like this episode was like bookmarked by these very like slow burn like moments that I thought really like added to the emotional like impact, like the beginning with like Hera and Jason and the end with like the Purgle. I found myself like getting like emotional at the end. I just thought it was like very like well paced and like well like handled, just from like a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, you talk about the emotional impact. I thought also derived from the music too, just really again Kevin Kiner just really delivering in these quiet moments and epic moments with the Purgle. I mean, the shot where Ahsoka is on top of the ship, outside the ship, right, and you just see the Purgle keep rising, because it's this massive space whale. I thought it was a great shot. Just you see how small Ahsoka is, and then how massive this Purgle, the lead Purgle, is, and she's communicating with it. Kevin, seeing live action Purgle, how was it for you?
Well, Laura Kelly told me this too, that they played the same music. It's like when Ezra was talking to the Purgle twice in this episode. So for fans of Rebels, you probably heard some familiar music. I loved it. I think you would think that big space whales. It was a hard sell for me during Rebels. I remember I'm like, I don't even know if I was a big fan of the summon Vermouth or whatever from Solo: A Star Wars Story, spacefaring things. But why not? Like this is a universe where there's laser swords and people jumping and talking droids. So I very much warmed up to the thought of it, and I that we get to see it live action and. It didn't feel like I know it was CGI, but it really was lost on me. I didn't really notice the volume in this episode at all either, which is great. Like I think maybe the environments lent it to feeling less about the volume.
Sure.
But yeah, the Purgle, to see that live action, who would have thought, like honestly, when Rebels came out, that they would ever. I mean, there's a shot of when Hera was sitting there, and you see it's kind of out of focus, but you could see Kanan's photo on the dash. There with her kid, and you're looking at it was the first time where I was like, this, like, man, if I was sometimes you just wish you were a kid. Like these kids these days have it.
They do.
Yeah, these kids have it like so made. They had I remember when we had live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I like freaked out about how it was live action, and like now everything it gets the live action treatment. Little Mermaid and now Rebels, but the Purgle, I love it happens almost every episode of this show. I still rank Kenobi above it, but every episode ends where I want a little more, but this one especially, but it like makes sense. Like we haven't seen anyone who go over there yet. We didn't catch up with Balin or Shin or anyone else. I'm sure you really, we were all sad you didn't get to see your girl Sabine, Brandon, but and Sabrina.
Yeah, she was in the recap. It was fine.
Yeah. But I love how they just zip out and Hera can't go there. Jason, good. Jason needs to calm down and go to Sunday school and go to daycare. And take it easy. You'll be a Jedi one day, and then probably sadly die before the sequel trilogy.
Oh boy! Well, I wonder how they're going to handle that. But yeah,
them disappearing, and then that's it. Like that's the end. So next week, like the build and the wait, because it's the exhale. You're always worried about. Okay, we finally got our Anakin. We knew it was coming. Maybe that's it. Maybe we see him one more time later in the season. But now we are at the exhale. But now there's so much more to look forward to. What does this new galaxy even look like? Are they we're going to see Thrawn finally? Like it's going to be. What are your guys' predictions for next week?
I wonder if this series is going to come back to this galaxy. What if they just spend the next 3 episodes, trying to combat Thrawn, stop Thrawn, find Ezra. I mean, find Sabine. Maybe they encounter something brand new while in this galaxy in their quest to stop Thrawn and all this stuff. I'm wondering if the series just ends in this other galaxy. I don't know, or maybe it ends with Thrawn finding his way back to the galaxy while everyone else is kind of stuck. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like they would be stuck for long because Ahsoka and Ezra can talk to the Purgle, so they can just jump back. And it begs the question then, well, why wouldn't Ahsoka just talk to the Purgle to jump back to the galaxy? That's the huge question I got now is what the hell is going on with Ezra? So I don't know, man. I just have no idea what's going to happen next week because now basically all our main characters are in this other galaxy aside from Hera and Chopper and Jason, right? They're the only ones really left behind at this point. So are we going to start next week in this new galaxy of Ahsoka and Hu Yang with the Purgle jumping into this new galaxy? Because we also don't know. It's not like they're going to end up right on top of Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth and on the Eye of Sion and all that. I'm really curious I'm just excited for the rest of this series. Brandon?
Yeah, I don't know what my question is specifically, but I don't know if it's because you didn't ask it or if because I spaced out. But
basically, I mean, like, what do you think is going to happen? You know, from
you
going
all right,
on here on out.
You thinking about Ahsoka without her headband too? Here?
No, I was thinking about going to bed. I don't know, but no, I don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, like, I know there's like a shot of Thrawn like on like the Eye Sion like in one of the trailers, and they're like on like a planet. You can see like little mountains in like the background or something.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I that'd be interesting. It's like we've seen this new galaxy all along. Look, the mountains. But yeah, I don't know if I like really like have like any like solid predictions on what's gonna happen. I think it is interesting to like think about the fact that like, you know, at this period in time, like Han, Luke, and Leia are like still pretty young, and it's like or are they just all kind of like sitting back, kicking their feet up, doing nothing? This seems like a pretty big threat. So I don't know if we'll like they did mention Leia in this episode. Like, I don't know if there's like a way they can like involve her without actually showing her on screen. You know, like I thought like this is like kind of like a side tangent, but like I thought like Ghostbusters like Afterlife for the most part did a really great job of like including Harold Ramis's character without him like actually being in the movie. And so like I wonder if there's like ways that they could like get creative with like Leia and like I'm sure we'll see Luke again at some point. I don't know in this show or it's another show, but
yeah. I do have one question for you guys about Hera and whether or not we think these events, because Mon Mothma shows up and is like, hey, come back to Coruscant with Ahsoka, we might have to strip you of your rank and all that stuff. I'm curious now if this is leading up to Hera leaving the Republic fleet altogether because of, you know, she's hampered, at least in this instance, right, going to Cetos, she's hampered by the fact that they didn't allow her or want her to go. Whereas like beforehand, before she, you know, she was a rebel, even before she was with the rebellion full on, you know, taking missions, helping people out wherever, whenever, and however she wanted. Do you guys think that this is a way for Hera to get out of the Republic fleet so that when it gets destroyed on Hazian Prime, she's not part of it?
I just wish they had a moment like when Obi-Wan says, I'm not asking you, the council's asking you, or, you know, he doesn't say I'm not. But like, I wish they had a moment with Mon Mothma where you realize this is not what she wants to do, but she's being forced to. Because it's like, we're watching Andor right now where she's taking such big risks. And like, don't you remember where you came from, Mothma? Like, why aren't you trusting anything? You were Hera in Andor, and now like you've become part of this. It's like you've said, Brandon, like no wonder this galaxy, like you watch The Force Awakens the first time, you're like, oh, a First Order came. Like, how did that come out of it? No wonder. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think that I think they're building up to an Avengers level movie, and I think they will somehow incorporate Leia or Han. Like, you're gonna have this big battle. It's this big showdown with Thrawn and his army and stuff like that. So that's going to be incredible. And I don't think that's being saved for Ahsoka season 2. Or maybe it is, and they're going to even further build up to it. But this Filoni movie is going to be the Avengers in space. It's going to be Star Wars Avengers, right? So I think they're all going to come together, and then the galaxy will thwart Thrawn and his Second Empire, and then from the remnants of that will be the First Order. But at least we're going to figure out and understand why it was so easy for the New Republic to fall into their old habits. And like they're just as bad as they ever were. Like, which is maddening. But yeah, I hope, by the way, my prediction is I hope we don't go back to Hera the rest of the series, at least this season, or until they get back. Like, I think if you're in another galaxy, you should be like, that should be the only galaxy you see. You notice we didn't cut to the fleet or the bad guys this episode. So I'm hoping that it'll be something similar, that we're really engulfed in this new galaxy. I doubt it. I think we're going to keep going back. But yeah, I think she's going to be gone. I think she's going to be like jaded and you know, I think they're going to come up with a way. I think she's going to be not general. But why would you want to be a general of where you don't even have your leaders having your back, especially one like Mon Mothma? Like you were her. Mon Mothma was as idealistic as Hera is now. And I think age and experience and just the years have made her forget, I think. But I just wanted her to say, like, listen, I don't want to do this, but I have, like, you know, I have to answer to other people, you know. But she seems like Mon Mothma is like just as angry at Hera. She's crazy to me.
I think
I don't know.
I echoed like your same feelings like right out once we got out of the showing. I'm like, what the hell's up with Mon Mothma, man? Like she used to be somebody.
She used to throw more dinner parties and calm down.
Yeah. But I wonder if like I don't know. I know there's like a lot of like history in like the novels and things like that, but like it would be cool to see like if Hera does leave the New Republic fleet, if like Leia like pulled her aside and was like, hey, I have like a job for you, and she becomes like one of like the founding members of the Resistance or something like that.
Totally could be. Yeah. Oh wait, isn't there? Well, it depends, because in Squadrons, Hera's still part of the fleet, and I don't know exactly when the timeline that is. So that might be a ways away, but maybe this is seeds for Hera eventually leaving the New Republic. Like this is just one instance of maybe a few where she's like, all right, you know what, this is enough. I
appreciate Hera so much, and my wife, who's watching the show for the first time, like just like halfway through the show, is just like, I really like this character. Like we made a joke and said that this show is almost like the Ted Lasso of Star Wars, meaning everybody aside from the bad guys, but even the bad guys, everybody, we love Balin, and there's things to love about Finn.
Yeah.
But like it's like the Ted Lasso of Star Wars. Everybody's every character's so likable, from the droid, Chopper, and little kid, like to Hera. Like I just thought she nailed Hera and Ahsoka and Sabine and their struggle, like. And even like Balin and his honorable, I mean, I wasn't on your show last week, but I'm convinced that Balin's, and this is neither here and there for this episode, but I'm convinced that Balin's mission is to try to somehow get the power to be to the world of Between Worlds. I think he keeps mentioning that he doesn't want more Jedi to die, and I think that Order 66 really screwed him up, and I think he thinks that if he can get the power of accessing the world between worlds, or what is the rumor of that power, that he can reverse it, right? And I think the best kind of villains are some of them that are going about it the wrong way, but have like honorable intentions. And even when I was revisiting Rebels this today, someone mentions the world between worlds in a very like, the world between worlds would give you the ultimate power. Someone literally says that on the show.
Oh yeah, that scientist in the Rebels one. He's the one with Sabine when he like they take Sabine to capture. Yeah,
it's like, you don't understand. This could be the most powerful thing, and I think that's the train Balin's on. I don't know how that connects with. I think with Ahsoka, or maybe because he knows Ezra Bridger and Ezra had accessed it or whatever. Maybe. But yeah, that would be my theory about him. But yeah, everybody's so likable on this show. Which it's just slowly inching up there for Obi-Wan. You know what I mean? I know that I'm in the minority. I think everybody's favorite show probably at this point is either Andor or Ahsoka, right?
It's Ahsoka for me right now. Yeah. It's Ahsoka for me right now. Yeah, this one pretty much locked that up for me this episode, and I'm pretty sure the other ones might do it. Oh, Clone War, Anakin armor. I mean,
give us a Clone Wars movie today, $1 billion.
That'd be crazy.
For Bob Iger's pockets.
Any last thoughts on this episode, guys, before we wrap up? We have like a couple Q&A questions, but not too many. So, all right.
Fire away.
So if we kind of talked about this one already in the episode, but A21 Edits, I just want to acknowledge that we saw your question, and he asked, do you think the Anakin we saw was like an illusion to help Ahsoka forgive herself for what happened, as well as to finish her training? I think we talked about that pretty lengthy start of the episode, so... I hope you got your answer there from us.
Shout out to A21. He's a good editor. He likes to do tribute videos and stuff like that. Maybe he'll make a Scoundrels tribute video. But yeah, maybe. Good guy. He's a KOTOR and on our Discord for Scoundrels. So
yeah. And then lastly, we have Erdan. He says, or asks, what do you think happened to Marok's lightsaber and armor? Was it left there, or did the investigators find it? Kind of dumb question, but just curious. I think Hu Yang just snatched up Marok's lightsaber and is like, I need from my database.
If like Mon Mothma's like, if you can't provide any evidence, then there's nothing we could do. It's like, what about the Inquisitor armor and lightsaber that's sitting in the woods right now? You know, the one that was on the scene where they stole the super Star Destroyer hyperdrive, not just a Star Destroyer hyperdrive, a super Star. Like, what else would you need that for except for nefarious purposes? Get the freaking fleet on it. Let's go.
There you go.
Frank, scroll up. There's like questions above you, pal.
Oh, hold on. Let me take a look.
Not that I want you to read mine because I'm way
well, you do. Oh, actually, Prodigal Knight.
Yeah, we could skip mine.
That's up to you. I will if you want me to.
No, you can go. I earned,
for this.
Is it about the headband?
I predict. Yeah, it's a prediction where I was massively wrong, but yeah.
Prodigal Knight 777 asks, for this week's episode, last Friday's group premiere of the KOTOR Saga films was a lot of fun. Will you be doing more of that on your channel? And have you three thought of doing something similar like that with Scoundrels Inc.? Kevin.
First of all, does he go to Vegas? 777 sounds like he probably plays the slot machines in Vegas. Dude, it was fun, man. That KOTOR premiere, it was a great fan event, and it's crazy the legs that this video has. Like, look, it's not going viral or anything like that, but it's over 7,000 views in like 4 days for something that's been released already. First of all, using 2003 graphics. Secondly, it's just a combination of all the movies together in like canon order, but it was really great to see. The chat was full the whole time. People stayed like for a majority of the time. I think it'd be really fun for us Scoundrels to get together, maybe all in person, and do a live watch along, like how Kaiser and I did with Crystal Skull.
I just came across it the other day, Kevin. No joke, and I was like, man, what a time, because that was peak pandemic, man.
It was right before I got COVID. Remember I got sick like 2 days later. No, yeah. 2 days, like a week later, I got sick, and I swear I got COVID, but I never got tested back then.
Well, and I never got COVID from you, so I don't know.
Yeah, we never know. But yeah, it was a great screening. I think it would be something fun to do with Scoundrels Inc. and you know, some of the Saga films and stuff like that, because we won't do KOTOR because you guys haven't seen my movie, so whatever.
But this be a way to watch them, wouldn't it?
That's true. But yeah,
maybe we could do one on your channel as we all watch it. You know,
that would be fun.
Do it on Scoundrels Inc. I don't know. We can figure it out.
Yeah, that would be fun. And I do think that the fans they're wanting to see more. So we got more things, more fan events like that cooking. But that was my way also. I wanted everything on one simple video. Where I could link people to it now, and I think it starts with the strongest stuff, which is the Mandalorian stuff, and then it goes in, and like the episode 2, which is the oldest stuff right now, is kind of hidden in the middle. But like by then, you're so invested that you can get away with some of the older Xbox footage, and then episode 3 is obviously special edition. So thanks for the question. Yeah, we're gonna have more, and I would love to do something with Scoundrels. Maybe we watch Solo. We haven't done a retrospective on Solo yet.
Yeah, we haven't done Solo or Rogue One, so
we could do stuff like that in the off season. Obviously, no time right now during these things. Yeah,
the Millennium Falcon has a closet. Let's get into it.
That's right. Kevin, do you want me to read what you put in here?
We're an hour and a half in. Let's just say that I had a theory and it was wrong, and you can go on the Discord if you want to read it.
That's true.
Another Q&A of me trying to make Frank sound goofy with his announcer voice and reading it. But I did. I mean, I'll just say this. I thought that they were going to, and maybe it still is, we don't know, but I thought that Anakin was going to say like, hey, you know, since I kind of murdered school children and killed everybody and blew up planets, I'm stuck here as hall monitor of the World Between Worlds. I thought it was going to be kind of like with the Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame, where he was destined to be there guarding the Soul Stone the rest of eternity. And I thought that would have been kind of dark, where the Force decided that, you know,
well, that's kind of like Mortis a little bit, actually.
Oh yeah. So it's not him. So I was wrong, and I don't need you to read it because it was just, it's just ridiculousness of me claiming that I'm right about my.
And like I said, if the people want to see it, they can hop in our Discord and go in there.
Watch our Discord numbers jump up right now,
just for this, just to see what you wrote.
Things right now.
All right, that's gonna wrap it up here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for more of our wacky conversations on all things Star Wars and Kevin's love of KOTOR and trying to make me sound like an idiot while I read his questions from the Q&A section. You can also leave a like on this episode.
Brandon's voices too.
And Brandon's voice is absolutely. We had no Jar Jar. We had no Jar Jar today.
You have no anything. Come on, do your Anakin. Do an Anakin real quick.
Anakin. You turned her against me. You have done that yourself.
I was going to say, are you
Your anger and your lust for power have already done that. You allowed this Dark Lord to twist your mind until now you become the very thing you swore to destroy.
What if he's like, until now?
He's like, going from one voice to the other like Robin Williams.
Very good, my friend. See,
I was going to say, are you an Anakin or an Anakin? And you were an Anakin. Man, that sounds like a joke that Kevin would say. Hit like on that, hit that like button for real if you could. It'd help us out a lot. And leave a comment on what you thought of this week's episode of Ahsoka, because I want to know everyone's thoughts on this one, because this was just an incredible episode. I had so much fun with it. And again, follow us on our socials, the app formerly known as Twitter, and then we have Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, where you can find Brandon once again, threading to his heart's desire. And then if you want a podcast feed, we have that as well. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcast. You can subscribe to our feed and help us look good as we join the Brad Gilmore Gilmore Media LLC network, part of that network now. And next week, I'm really looking forward to next week's episode as we talk about part 6. Who knows what that's going to be called? A galaxy far, far, far away? I don't know. The Mandalorian. That's right. That's it. We're out of here. We'll see you next week.
Later.
Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.